Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Melissa. If you're just joining me here, welcome. We are outside for today's video and I'm really excited and I'm sad at the same time. It is time to chop my Monstera Adansonii again. I have her right here. I'm going to show you her in all of her glory. I am going to link the previous video I will link that up here for you, as well as down in the description. I actually have two videos on her. The first video is where I chopped her the first time, and in that video I didn't know my process, what I was going to do, because these plants, back when I started moss poles, I started them on a plastic netting, and over time I realized that they weren't stable, and the inspiration that I got for starting on plastic was a video over 2 years ago that inspired me, because I first started her on a pole. It's been close to 2 years, so that's why I initially started out using plastic, was because of that video, and just through like my own experience with growing on plastic. Over time, when you go to extend, they're just not sturdy and stable. So I made the decision to switch over to a wire hardware cloth, and it's so much better. So I kind of came up with the idea to somehow transition my plants that were on plastic to wire. What I showed in that video was me sort of figuring out and encapsulating the plastic netting with the wire so that she could grow up onto wire and still have the bottom be plastic. So eventually, as she climbed, I can keep chopping away and she'll be all the way off of plastic. So we're at that point where her top half is wire and her bottom half is plastic. So we are going to fully get her off of the plastic, and it makes me super excited. I was actually just looking at her and she doesn't have a lot of plastic pole left, but I would say she's a little bit more than halfway on wire. So I'm still keeping all the top beautiful growth, the big leaves. The reason why I'm continuing to chop my poles is to get the larger leaves for them to continue to climb and mature. And I can't really trail these back down per se, because once the vines kind of grow big and thick, there's not really a way to bend them down depending on the plant. And once you train them back down, it's hard for them to continue growing and maturing per se. So that's the reason that I am chopping, to get her off plastic and to keep getting larger leaves. So before we get started, I will kind of give you a full look at her and my plan, and then we'll get started. Here she is in all of her glory. She's super tall. She's almost as tall as me. She's about 6 foot in height. I love her so much. These are the newer leaves and they're pretty large. I think this is just a regular Monstera Adansonii. I bought it a long time ago. This plant has been with me probably 2.5 years. I don't know the kind of form it is. I just know it to be a regular Monstera Adansonii. This is the second leaf and the newest leaf, and it is working on a new growth. And this one actually has another vine growing here that has sort of caught up with it. You can see a new leaf coming in there. She does have one more down here on the bottom, which unfortunately I'm not going to be able to include that vine because this part is still on the plastic. Okay, I turned her on the side so you can see. So her last node is here. You can see the aerial roots. It doesn't have anything to grow into. So it is time for the extension. So I'm going to be extending on top with another wire. And she is plastic from, I would say, about here down. You can kind of see where the wire is over the plastic here, and this was like pushed down over it. So I'm not sure how far the plastic goes up in here. I can't quite remember. So I'm thinking about chopping somewhere in here. So I have a plastic, I have this wire over the plastic, and then I have another wire over the wire that's over the plastic. So there's actually 3 connections here. Yeah, she's grown a lot of roots. She's actually severely root bound. Like, look at all those roots in there. So my plan once I chop this is I can't keep this because it's on plastic. It can be kind of confusing, but once I remove the bottom part that's on plastic, basically this middle section here becomes the new bottom part of the pole. So I'm going to remove the moss, fill with soil, and plant that back into the bottom. And whatever roots are contained into the moss are the new soil roots, and they'll grow just like that has done, because that used to be the top part of the pole when I chopped it the first time. And so you're basically just chopping away the bottom, and it'll grow new soil roots, and then you're just going to continually add a new pole on top each time you chop. It is a little bit chilly. I was waiting for the temperature to warm up above 60 because it was still in the 40s this morning, and I knew I wanted to do this outside today. So it's a little bit windy, but it's so nice. It's such a beautiful day. So when I go to chop her, I imagine she's going to stress and yellow like she did the first time. I can put a photo on the screen of what happened. She ended up, I think it ended up being a total of 5 leaves that completely yellowed and died off just from the shock of being chopped. Since these do stress pretty easily, I'm going to give a thorough water with Superthrive. I bought a new container. If you don't know, Superthrive expires in 2 years. So I have a fresh new container, and I'm going to be watering her thoroughly with Superthrive to hopefully reduce any shock that she's going to go through, because I just know she's going to shock again, and that's why I'm really nervous chopping her, because of that reason. I just feel like they're so stress sensitive. I'm really excited to get her off of plastic all the way, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to play it by ear. I haven't fully gotten one off of plastic yet. I will chop the vine first and let that start callousing while I work on chopping the pole and removing moss and all of that. So I'm going to turn you around here and we'll get started. I am going to be giving you guys some different angles while I do this too, just so you can see up close more of what I'm doing. I want to make sure that I am cleaning before I cut into any kind of plant tissue. Just keep in mind, bacteria can spread. I don't know when I've used these last. I used to use my shears all the time. I actually have like 3 or 4 pair of them. These are the ones that I found, so I'm going to be using these. Make sure you clean them, especially when you go and put so much work into growing a plant like this. The last thing that you want is something to spread it, to get some kind of infection. So clean your shears before you cut. Yeah, I can feel that the plastic ends here. So I am going to cut here on the vine. It's going to be hard for you guys to see. So I'm basically cutting in these 2 spots, these 2 vines, so I can get them all the way off of plastic. This is the chop right here. Whew, okay, I'm nervous. It's done. It's done. So her only root system is just contained inside this moss. The bottom half is no more. Okay, so where I have the metal wire encapsulating the plastic, I'm going to cut these zip ties. And just see what is going on. I'm going to have to undo this cable tie securing the stake as well, because I need to get this stake out of here. So I'm going to cut this all the way. Okay, I am removing that. So it is going to be very, very, very important for me not to let this moss go dry at all, especially while it's trying to grow new soil roots. I have to be mindful that I need to keep this pole very moist, because the only roots are in this pole. So if I let these roots dry that are in this moss, it's going to get very angry. So probably every other day I'm going to take and fill my watering globe up with water, and just keep this moss hydrated so that those roots can have moisture like 100% of the time. All right, so where we cut, I am gonna cut this plastic. Whoa. Ah. All right, this is our new bottom part of our pole. So I'm glad I was able to save this long aerial root because that'll help in the soil. It'll help grow. You can already see a little bit of new roots off of there. That'll help grow into the soil. So I'm gonna sit her in here for a minute. So this is the pot that I'm gonna be using. It's a little over 6.7, I think it's 6.7 inches. And I will be reusing the stake that we cut off. But first things first, so where we had chopped here, this is going to be the new bottom part of the pole. So I want to remove moss probably to like here. I need to remove this much moss. So I'm going to work on kind of removing this a little bit. And yeah, we will fill this with soil. So there's basically so many roots that are contained in this moss just because each node grows into it. You can already see all those roots there. So it's gonna take me a little bit to remove the moss from like here down. So I'm just gonna take my time. I hope she doesn't shock too much because yeah, I pretty much cut the bottom part of her pole and root system, but she has so many roots in here that I'm not too worried about her stressing too much, I guess. But I just know the first time I chopped her, she stressed, so I have to be mindful that she's probably going to stress again. I might actually have to remove these bottom zip ties so I can open this up a little bit. The top part of this is really heavy. And I made sure she was fully hydrated. I watered her yesterday, so the moss is completely damp because you don't want to propagate and cut a thirsty plant because that can induce more stress. So make sure that your plant is fully hydrated before you go propagating and even repotting. I don't like to really repot stressed plants that are wanting water. It doesn't have to be fully watered, you know, but you don't want to, I don't know, a dehydrated plant is stressed, so you just want to make sure it's somewhat watered. Okay, my reasoning for cutting the bottom piece of this off was so that I had more roots exposed to the soil so that they can continue growing in the pot. So that means I have to remove more moss now, but that's okay. All right, I am going to, just so my camera battery doesn't overheat, I'm going to just continue removing moss probably to like here. And then I'll come back on and then I'll show you the roots and what they look like, and then we'll get to potting her up. I'm gonna have to invest in a better tripod because I was trying to show you guys something and then it went blank. So I don't know if it showed you what I was doing. So this was the bottom half. I basically opened it up and I removed this vine from the bottom part. So I'm gonna try and include this into the bottom part of the new pole, if that makes any sense. It's really hard trying to explain this sometimes. I was saying I have to work fast because I don't want these roots to dry up at all. So where I have this cut open, I'm gonna try and squeeze this new bottom cutting in here basically, if I can get it to squeeze in here. because I would like to include this third vine, but we'll see. It'll be an experiment. I don't know if it'll live or not. I'm just zip tying the wire shut where I had opened it. Normally this would be in the back, but I accidentally put the bottom part in the front. Okay. It keeps rolling, it doesn't want to stay. Okay, well this came out while I was trying to zip tie it, so I'm going to try and squeeze this root system in here. I'm going to use a piece of Velcro. These pens are driving me crazy. I hope that makes sense what I was doing. So this third strand that I'm adding in here, I took off the bottom part of the pole, and I'm basically just trying to squeeze the roots in here. I don't know if this cutting's going to make it or not, but we're going to try it and find out. All right, so I need to remove this leaf that's going in the soil. I need to remove that leaf as well as this leaf. Might have to remove this one too. So I'm basically going to fill this with soil, and this is going to be the new bottom part of my pole. And the soil that I'm using, it's mostly my mix, and then it's some of soul soils. I have leca balls, pumice, perlite. I removed basically the coco coir. So I'm basically going to re-zip tie this other part, and then I'm going to add the extension on top, and then I will back you guys out so you can see that part. I'm kind of mad at myself because I smacked the new growth up top like 10 times. My hands are all torn up from the wire trying to remove that moss out of there too. Okay, I feel better. I was like a little stressed there for a while. So this is the new bottom half here. And we are going to add our extension on. She is now officially all on wire. All right, so for the extension, this is another pre-made standard 3-foot pole. And we are going to slide this over top. I'm going to remove a couple zip ties here. Might have to remove one more. So you just want to line the back up with the back, and then we're going to slide right over top. I'm gonna have to fill a little of this up with moss. This is just the moss that was on the bottom part of the pole, just to fill in this gap. All right, I think that looks good. So we are going to zip tie them together here. It is so windy out here. Oh my goodness. I think that'll be okay. I'm gonna go ahead and add this garden stake back in here against the back, just to help secure it. You just want it flush against the pole. All right, I'm gonna back out and we'll show you her and we'll give her a drink and she's done. That is it. Okay, we'll ignore the mess down here, but look at her, you guys. Oh my goodness. These are the new leaves. I'll have to center this middle node a little bit closer to the front. I might just put some Velcro because the little pins that I have aren't going to hold such a thick vine. And then it has the other one in the middle and then that one down on the other side that I added in. She's so cute. So I'm gonna give the soil a drink. I brought out my Superthrive that I just bought and I'm gonna add some drops in my watering can. And then I have a 6-inch pot. I'm gonna take apart the bottom part of the pole along with what's in there and then just pot them in a separate pot. And I usually just use the cap and I put, you really only need a couple drops per cup of water. This is just mosquito dunk water. I'm just gonna add a couple drops in my can. That's good. I don't measure anything. This is just an empty container. I'm gonna plop her down in here and we're gonna give her a good soak. And then the top part of the pole is dry here because of the new extension. So I'll water that one from the top once I get her put back into my plant room. I'll give this part here a soak. I'm going to give her a good soak down here because there's not any roots really in the soil at all now. It has to grow new roots. So not only do I need to keep this moist, I have to be mindful that I can't let this soil get too dry either until I get some new roots growing. So I just have to be mindful that, just keep a close eye on her. again, this was the bottom part that was in plastic. I'm basically just going to remove all the moss that's on the roots and then just pot them in the soil. So I want to go ahead and do some like individual cuttings here. Look at that chunky root, that long aerial root that was growing outside of the bowl. So we are not going to do soil for all these cuttings. We are going to keep them in moss. So I went and got just some fresh moss here, and I'm going to add a little bit of Superthrive. Again, just so that these cuttings don't shock just from being taken off the pole. So I have a little plastic container here. So we're going to take some of our fresh moss and that Superthrive. This is an old pickle container. I do have some holes for airflow in there. So with our fresh cup, we're going to take these cuttings and add them down into the moss. And I'm actually going to stick this unrooted cutting down in here too, because it'll root in the moss. And then for this here, I'm going to undo so I don't need any of these roots. We are going to prune this entire thing. There is one more cutting that we'll add in here. One more cutting. All right, that is all that I am saving. And then we are just going to fill up with moss for all these cuttings. Basically just a little bouquet. All right, so there's the bottom part of our pole. I have all these cuttings. A lot of them have roots already. And they're just going to continue rooting in here, and then I will pot them up. So I am going to get this mess cleaned up, and then I will take you guys into my plant room and I will show you them in their spot. Here she goes. Oh my goodness, she looks so good. So I officially have to use a step stool to water her. I tried to reach her from the floor and I couldn't reach back behind the light fixture. So I currently have a watering globe and I'm watering her with some Superthrive water, and that'll hydrate the dry portion, which this part doesn't matter, but I'm gonna water it all the way down to stop it to like here since I already watered the soil. And then I will just be mindful to keep her watered every day or so because I don't want her to dry out. And I have her in front of this mother grow light so she can get some light, and yeah, we'll see how she does. I really hope I didn't stress her too much. I put the props up here. So that was all the ones that I put in moss, and I just have that sitting on the shelf right there for now. So it's getting some light and I can kind of keep an eye on it. I imagine a lot of those are probably gonna shock, but even if the leaves die, I have all the nodes that are viable, so it'll still push new growth. So it'll be okay if some of the leaves yellow. I'm obsessed, you guys. Huh, say, is mommy obsessed? Yeah. He's so cute. Yeah, he cute. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to end this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It was a little bit chaotic. I was a little stressed, I'm not going to lie. That was not a smooth process. I think I was just so worried about having her shock that it just was a little chaotic, but it'll be okay. She'll be okay. I'm just going to do a really good job at keeping her hydrated and just take it day by day with her and crossing my fingers. It does well. She handled it the first time, so I feel like she can handle it again. So fingers crossed. But yeah, I will leave the other videos linked down below that I have done on her, as well as the moss pole playlist. And yeah, if you have any questions about anything, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll be happy to try and answer them. I'm glad she's fully off of plastic, and I'm excited to hopefully get her growing again in some time here. I will keep you guys updated, of course, on her and how she's doing. But yes, thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you soon.